In CSS, we know what a class is, right? So you identify a class with a period and then some kind of unique name. And that's a way to identify an element for some kind of style in CSS. It could be as simple as just one little word within a sentence has its own class so that you can make it bold or italic or whatever. Now, a pseudoclass is a way to even further subdivide those classes. You can see right here the definition on W3 schools is it's used to define a special state of an element. And an example of an element that has multiple states is going to be an A tag or a link. So if we take a look back here at our website, we can see that these links have default behavior. So they're underlined, they're blue if they're just sitting there, and then they turn purple if they've been clicked. And that's pretty ugly, so we want to mess around with that a little bit. I'll head over here to my HTML that's ready to go. So instead, let's do CSS, and underneath our unorganized list, or unordered list rather, I'll add in an A tag. And so initially, this is not going to be a pseudo class. This is just a regular tag. And let's say text decoration is equal to none. So the first thing I want to do is say in every single state that a link can exist in, we don't want to see any of the underlines. But it's also possible to say, well, maybe I want it to be underlined when it's just neutral, but I would like something to change about the underline. Maybe I want it to go away when I'm hovering over this link. And sure enough, under pseudoclasses, we can see for the A tag, there's 4 different pseudoclasses. So you have a link, and that's just when it's sitting there unvisited. A visited link is one that's not currently doing anything, but you have already been there at least once. Now, mouse over is the one that we really care about, the A:hover. And then a selected link comes up relatively rarely. That's like if you're tabbing the cursor around the screen and so forth. So let's head on back here to our CSS, and we'll give an example of that. Now, in addition to text none, why don't we say background is white, or #FFF, padding, man, it's hard to talk and type, isn't it? Padding 15 pixels, so I'll save that and take another look right here. All right, that's starting to go somewhere, but still I'm not really getting any feedback when I slide over these links, and it's extra important once I take away the underline. I might also say something like margin bottom is maybe -2 pixels or something like that, because this line is far too skinny, so we should probably either have it, immediately on top of box 1 or nice and hovered up. I may not be able to get away with that until I do position relative, where it'll start listening to margin bottom. Let's see if that works. I'm going to have to keep playing with that to see if I can get that working during our tutorial here. So I'll ignore that for now. I'm doing something wrong. So let's go down to A, and we'll add in a pseudo class like hover. So you can see not only do I have the A tag, but also a colon and then the pseudo class name, which is hover. And in this case, let's just change the background to a new, very different color like red. Now, when I'm making a lot of this stuff, I'm making it look really ugly and really hyper contrasty just in order to show you what I'm doing. Of course, I encourage you to do something that's a little more subtle and easier on the eyes than me. So now if I refresh this and I hover, we can see we're starting to get some great visual feedback there. So I don't know if this is just the screen that I'm looking at. Man, that looks pretty washed out. I guess the red and the blue serif font are not that great of a combination. So why don't I head back and try to figure out why these things aren't positioning them exactly where I want. And I think I understand. So instead of saying position relative and margin bottom in the A, I'm going to move this up into the unordered list, because after all, I want to move the unordered list as one big unit. Okay, so we can paste those in like that. The order in which they fall within the definition doesn't really matter. I should probably try to make them alphabetical so they're easier to look through, but I'm just kind of going willy-nilly here. So I hit redo, and then I can see now it's listening to my positioning. However, I did my math wrong. If you're doing this for real professionally, you should probably really figure out what the math is, but I'm just going to go back in here and take a guess. that we actually want margin bottom instead of -2 to be, say, 10 pixels. And I'll reload it, and then maybe I need 2 more. Yeah, don't tell anyone that I'm teaching web design and then just sort of playing around with the pixel count. But honestly, sometimes that's what it comes down to. So I get that position exactly where I like it, and now when I highlight these links, it comes up just right. It almost looks like a file folder or something. Okay, so I'm demonstrating a pseudo class. Again, my pseudo class implementation looks pretty ugly, but hopefully it's just there to show you what you could do. And now you have the opportunity to go back through all of the different CSS that we've learned, or some of the fancier CSS that they cover on W3 schools. So for example, down here under CSS Advanced, you can get shadows and text effects and all this other stuff. So go nuts. Try not to make it look too hideous, but make it a good demonstration of the tools you've learned. And then make sure also that these links do function and carry us down to different places within your website.